Hi, I'm Lisa Wetzel. Thank you guys for joining me. We're at the end of December, moving into January 2026. What an exciting time. What there, my guides are already jumping in. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a forecast for January from my Akashic Masters. And what my question is what can we expect in January? And the guides are already jumping in, so I'm going to let them start talking. What we want you to understand is that 2026 is a year that they keep calling it is a millennium year. And what we want you to understand is that it's a beginning of a new transition into a new time and a new way of being. What we want you to recognize is that January, and they're saying on January 1, the first day of January is going to bring a shift in universal consciousness that has not been acquired before. What we want you to understand is that this is the new beginning of a new way of being. They're calling it a time warp. It's a time warp. And what you're going to find is that humans on Earth are going to shift so rapidly in the month of January that they're not going to recognize how this happened. So those individuals that have not been fully aware of the energetic shifts and changes that have been occurring are going to wake up in a new way of being. And so what I'm understanding is that it's like, those of us that are been familiar with all these energetic changes and everything that's been happening, we've been able to go along the path. We've been able to process kind of like one day at a time and letting go of this energy and recognizing what was happening because we were aware of what's happening. For the individuals that have not been aware, it's like they're all of a sudden, and they keep calling there's a time warp. Again, it's going to be like a time warp, and they're going to recognize immediately that something has changed. It's kind of exciting. So what we want you to recognize is that it will be a situation where the human population that has not been aware of the shift will begin to recognize that there's something that's different that's going on around them and within them. They're going to recognize that their bodies are starting to feel different. They're going to start recognizing that there's something that's different in the way that they're thinking. And what we want you to see is that the galactic partners and the time travelers are shifting a dimension in time that is going to take the human race to a new way of being that they haven't experienced before. This is a shift in time consciousness. We want you to understand that the humans that are going to be experiencing this specific time warp are going to be those that are not aware of the present stature of who they are. They're going to recognize that literally it's a new day and it's a new way of being. Everything is going to start shifting in the human consciousness to those that have been unaware, to help them to see that things are differently. The energy is different that's surrounding them and that's within them. They're going to begin to recognize that they are walking in a different dimension than what they've known before. And this is a process that was meant. This has been planned for billions of years. Recognize that this shift in the time continuum is happening in a way that is meant to be. They're saying nothing is by happenstance. This is not something that was recently planned. It was on the time continuum for some time. So we want you to understand that the shift in the dynamics of who humans think they are and who they're becoming is going to become more and more known. And starting in January is the day that the shift happens. So we want you to see that you are walking into a new way of being without even recognizing that there is a shift in the whole time continuum. And so how we want you to understand that this is going to be affecting you in ways that the body is going to be shifting. The body is going to shift in a way that is going to cause a magnetic resistance to the time of aging. We want you to understand that this is going to bring in a new level of consciousness that is going to start seeing things from different dimensions. We want you to understand that the hair on humans' heads are going to become softer, silkier, and they are going to become more natural. We want you to understand that the physical structure of the human way of being is shifting. And what I'm seeing is like even our teeth are going to start shifting. There is going to be a shift and a change in the whole physical structure so that they are more aligned with the consciousness of all that is. And so we want you to see that the physical structure is shifting and changing to hold the magnetic frequency that is coming to Earth. And this is why the human format is changing. We want you to understand that the human structure is shifting into a way that is less dense and more magnetically pliable than what it has ever been. We want you to understand that the human structure is becoming more, it's almost like plasma-like. And so what we want you to understand is that the plasma form is a way that the human body needs to function to be able to hold gravity in a way that it hasn't before. Because the gravitational pull of the earth is shifting in a way that would be harder on the human structure. And it's almost like what I'm seeing is that the way that the gravitational pull, it's almost like if we didn't become more pliable, that it would actually kind of crush and compact that our bodies. And so what's happening is that it's like I see the bones becoming more fluid, like our whole physical structure is becoming more fluid. And so we want you to understand that once again, this is mandatory for the human to be able to survive on the earth without feeling the pressure or the constrictedness. And again, it's kind of like crushing. And so we want you to see that this is purposeful and we understand what's happening and this is not mistake. So when you begin to recognize that there's something that's shifting in the physical structure, the way that your physical being is being manipulated, understand that there is a significant reason why. It is to elevate the physical structure to the new atmosphere that's being created so that the human body can sustain the gravitational pull that's being created. And what I'm seeing is that it's not only happening in the human structure, but it's happening in animals. And plants are also changing their format and their structure so that they can maintain their structure and their way of being on Earth as well. This is a new it's a new way of being for the human. The physical structure has been changing into the crystalline body. And as you know, the DNA has been shifting as well. And what all of this is bringing is that ability for the body to be more pliable. And this is what we're walking into. January is the big shift in being able to help individuals understand how the earth is shifting and changing as they begin to recognize their bodies are changing in a way that they haven't noticed before or recognized before. And so what we want you to understand is that this is what is implementing the idea of different ways of healing. This is why sound healing and frequency healing is so important. Healing with waters, healing with magnetic resonance. These different ways of healing the physical structure are going to become more in play due to the way that this physical body is shifting and changing. So we want you to understand that this is what's changing. We also want you to recognize that in this shift of time, it is also going to reveal the unseen. We also want you to recognize that there will be the ability for those that have not seen the different dimensions or the different galaxies in the past to become more aware and more knowing of what actually exists outside of the human realm. And this is going to become something that is part of that being pliable. It's like it's not only changing my physical structure, but it's also changing my vision and the way that I can see through different dimensions. Now, this was also mentioned in November, but that November was more or less an opening. But January, with this time shift, it's going to make it more, they're saying more reliable, meaning basically that it's more likely to happen than what it was. Or in November, it was like an opening. They're calling it a portal opening in November to get used to the idea and the construct of shifting and changing as the veil was ripped in November. And so what we want you to understand is that what's coming in January is a continuation of what has been happening in November, December. And as you walk into the January months, you're going to begin to recognize that there's significant changes in who you are and how you are meant to be. And you're going to become more aware of these shifts and changes. And what we also want you to recognize is that this time shift is going to allow you to let go of the past, the past in a way that you haven't before. There's going to be memory lapses where individuals aren't going to fully recognize what happened in the years past. It's almost like an amnesia. It's like, you're moving into this new energy, and as this time flips, then we're actually going to forget what happened a year ago and into the past. And they're saying, and this is purposeful. It's meaningful because it's allowing the human to shift their idea of what once was, and they will no longer hold on to the past, but begin to create a way of being that's allowing the future to come in. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that it's a time portal. And so what's happening is that as we move into this and we let go of the past, instead of putting the projections of what has happened in the past into the future, it's almost like we're clearing the slate. It's like it'll be a clean slate in what we can imagine can happen in the future, or what we think will happen in the future, because the way that we've always predicted of what we want or what we think should be is based on what's happened in the past or our belief systems. They're saying they're going to get wiped clean. This is kind of exciting to me. And so what we want you to see is that there's a new way of being. So understand that January and February are going to be interesting months for many, many humans that walk upon the earth, as they don't remember yesterday and they can't see into the future because there is nothing to see into. So what we want you to understand is that we are assisting in the shift of the time realm, the time paradigm, so that the human will become more present and recognize that this is the place to be, no longer in the past and no longer in the future. And what you'll begin to recognize is that the flow will become easier, and humans will find more grace and peace and more happiness and joy as they're living more in the present moment with the way that they are meant to be. Understand that this is a significant change, and that there have been different realms of consciousness, different galaxies that have gone through this particular time shift. And understand that the earth, this is not something that we're experimenting with on earth. This is something that we have accomplished in the past. And again, we're talking to the Akashic field, and they have the records of what's happened in different universes and different galaxies and how this has worked before. And this is why it's significant to implement it on earth at this particular time, because we know that it works. And so what we want you to see is that by being able to forget the past and stand in the present moment, you will no longer project into the future of what you think should happen. And you'll find more of a rhythm in being more in alignment with who you are as a spiritual consciousness, and not what the mind has created. So you'll begin to understand that that the human will move into this new way of being. And they'll also begin to recognize that it's safe to be there. And what you're going to find is that it's a way of moving into the happy place. And what I'm hearing is nirvana. and that the earth is moving into a knowing and a way of being. The energy field is literally shifting into the way of what humans would describe nirvana as being. And so what you're going to find is that the way people are thinking are going to be very, very, very different. And it's going to be more of a multidimensional way of thinking than just on one singular way of thinking where humans have acted in the past. We want you to understand that this is what the 2026 year is beginning to bring in. This is why we're calling it the millennium. It is a new millennium that's starting a new way of being and a new level of consciousness that has not existed on the earth before. And it's funny because like what they're showing me now is like the the ice age. When the ice age, it's almost like it kind of cleared everything out and then we had to start all over again. It's kind of what's happening. It's like the earth is ending the old process and beginning anew. And this is what's opening up. But what we want you to understand is that humans are going to be experiencing some shifting in consciousness and recognizing that they may forget the old ways. But what we want you to understand is that this is also a process, as we can't walk in and turn everything upside down. They're calling it topsy-turvy. That we can't come in and turn everything over without the human feeling as if they have firm footing beneath them. So understand that this will be a gradual process for the individuals that are not fully ready to accept what is happening. We will gradually ease the humans into understanding this shift and what is happening so that they can evolve as needed. Understand that once again, this will be a process, but we want you to understand that the energy will be shifted. And this will happen at the beginning of January. And they're saying it's a non-negotiable. It's going to happen whether we want it to or not. And so what we want you to see is that this particular time shift is also going to create new ideas, new ways of being, new things, new thought processes. Everything will begin to shift and change. And what you'll begin to recognize is that the words will become louder. And what you're going to find is that there'll be less tolerance for misbeliefs. There'll be less tolerance for hatred and anger. And you'll begin to find that the voices that speak of love and honor and inclusiveness will be more heard. It'll be at a higher range, a higher frequency than the lower frequency. And you'll begin to understand that these higher frequency, vibrational frequencies that are being emitted will be more readily received as the human structure is shifting and changing with this time pattern. Okay, so what I'm understanding is that, it's kind of this shift that most of us have been talking about, where these heavier, denser energies are separating from this higher frequency energy. And it's going to be more seen, or you will be able to see it more clearly, that there's a distinct separation in these energy patterns. And I've always seen it as two frequencies. You've got your high frequency here and your low frequency here. What's going to happen is that the ears are going to be more in tune with the higher frequency, and they will no longer hear the low frequency. So recognize that your hearing is changing to vibrate with the same frequency that is that of the love frequency. And you'll begin to find that the words that are spoken in the lower energy patterns will not be heard because the frequencies will not mesh. So understand why this is significant. Understand that the individuals that are fighting or resisting the idea of this energetic shift will become fewer and fewer that reside in that lower, denser energy. And what we want you to understand is that the higher frequency will be much more readily accepted than the low frequency of hate and fear. So we want you to see that, again, the year of 2026 is going to have a human evolution like never before. We want you to see that this is what's moving forward, and that all humans can have a place of peace and understanding that all is well. Recognize that we understand every human and every human's emotions, every human's reactions, and understand that the soul is still directly connected to the Akashic field, and that the guides are always provided in whatever is needed in order to help assist the human in moving forward in this new dimension of consciousness. We also want you to recognize that there's no human that's alone. And regardless how you perceive a human's actions or reactions, understand that the idea and the ability for you to stand in your truth is much more important. We want you to understand that the soul and the individual that is acting in whichever way is meant to be at that particular time has the situation at hand. It is important for the human to recognize that they can let go of trying to save an individual from being in the old energy and stand in their truest form of light so that they can radiate their light energy in order to assist others in growing in a way that they may not be able to see. But what we want you to recognize is that the individuals that transition the fastest are the ones that accept the ability of what is happening and they're saying intercept, but basically what I'm saying is that bringing in this energy and being able to transform it and transmute it into who they are. So what we want you to understand is that this is another gift that we're giving the universe and the humans that reside upon it. Again, there is a time shift and a time change that is occurring that is going to affect all humans, and the humans will react to this as they have the ability to do so, and as they have been instructed to do. We want you to understand that once again, the month of January is going to create this shift. And so what we want you to see is how important it is for the individuals that are going through this transition to understand and to be at peace at what is unfolding. There are going to be many human constructs that will begin to fade away. And what you'll begin to see is that there's more of a universal construct that's being created, meaning that there's not going to be any more separateness between one and another, that it is going to become more united on a universal platform and not just in specific groups, meaning that, the way that we've separated each other, that there's so many, like, you're different because you're a specific religion or you're a specific nationality, or you believe this way or you believe that way, or you're from this country or from, we have literally separated each other in so many different segments that you really can't even count how many they are. All of those walls are going to start falling down, and January is the month that it begins. And so what we want you to see is that we're setting the human up to be successful in a way that we need them to be successful, so that the universe will thrive in this new way of being, and that the dark, heavy energies will no longer exist. And this is what January is for. Okay. So January is going to be fun. So anyway, that's pretty exciting. So I can't wait to see what happens. I think that it's really important for us to recognize is that these things that are shifting and changing, and this is pretty significant. I mean, they're literally talking about a time shift. And so as we're going into this place, or this energy that is very different than we've ever experienced before, I just want you to hold on to knowing that you're being taken care of, and that your soul knows exactly what's happening. And this is the time that, your mind isn't going to jump in and interfere, because it's not going to have the ability to do so like it's done in the past. And so as we go from this knowing and this trusting that's within us, and we have a tendency to jump into our heads, it's going to be interesting to see how this works with us, and how our mind might not be jumping into that fear like it used to. So I'm going to be interested to see how this works. This is such an exciting time. So anyway, as we're moving through this, if you do feel like you need some support, if you do feel like you need to connect more to your guides, or that there's something that you might need to work through to get your feet up underneath you, please go to my website, lisawetzel.com, and click on the store. And when you go to the store, you'll see that there's a number of different items that have been created to help you navigate through this time. And I also want to remind you all that there is a monthly journal that is available to everyone. And if you're a platinum member, that journal is free. And to get your free journal, all you have to do is log into the website as a platinum member, and then that will be available for you. So, you guys, January is going to be such an interesting month. 2026 is going to be such an interesting month. So, we are going to navigate through this together, and we may be holding each other's hands a whole lot, and it's going to be so exciting. So, I'll see you in February. And we'll figure out how this is going and what the next step is. So you guys hang on, and just, it's more or less just go for the ride. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. Just let it unfold. And it's going to be an amazing journey. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you next month.